Great. So, hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. We're really happy to have you here today. Welcome to this webinar with Foscari University of Venice. My name is Karen and I'm here representing THE student. And today we're joined by Christina. She will be talking about today about study opportunities in Venice, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you want to let us know all your questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box here at the bottom of the screen, and we will go back to them at the end. Christina, it's a pleasure for us to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Karen, for a lovely introduction. Hi to everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. As Karen already said, my name is Christina. I work in the international office at Ca Foscari University of Venice, and I'm excited that you're thinking about the idea of a European education, one that's affordable but excellent. And I'm proud to represent an Italian institution, obviously located in the city of Venice. If I don't sound Italian, that's because I'm not. I'm actually Canadian, but I've been living in Venice now since 2004, and I've been working with the university for the last 7 years. All right, so let me just share my screen here. Karen, if you can just confirm that that share has worked and everybody can see it.
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
Okay, perfect. I thought, why not start off with a beautiful view of the Grand Canal, of course, the most important canal that slices through the city of Venice. And so welcome to Venice and welcome to Ca Foscari. I'm not sure how much you've had an opportunity to read about us or what you've heard about us before connecting today. So I thought I'd start at the beginning and give you a sense of where we come from, what we're all about, talk a little bit about the study opportunities that we have on offer, and also the kinds of things that we can do to ensure that you, as a graduate of a master's program, are ready to launch a career. So let's start with our past, our roots. We were established in 1868, initially as the first international business school in Italy. And our name, I think, is something that sparks a lot of curiosity. Why are we not just the University of Venice? Well, it has to do with the history of our main administrative building, which is the structure that you see on the Grand Canal right there in the image on the screen. This is a Gothic palace that was built back in the 15th century for one of Venice's great noble families in the period of the Venetian Republic. And so it's called Ca Foscari, or the House of Foscari. And so as a result, our institution has taken its name from one of the great noble families of Venice's past. And so you can see immediately in our name our connection to our host city. Now, a lot's happened in the last 150 years. We're at this point a mid-sized public university, and we have around 23,000 students. We've broken up our study areas into 4, and our 8 departments broadly can be paired in each of those study areas. So we have 2 departments in the economics and management field, 2 in science and technology, 2 in the humanities, and 2 in languages and cultures. Now, in terms of what we do, I'm not sure, as I said, how well you know us, but certainly the people who put together international rankings are taking notice. Since you're on the THE website and you found out about us there, you have a good idea of how we measure up on that particular ranking. So I thought I'd throw up some examples of another ranking system. So here I'm showing you QS. And QS ranks us in 16 different study areas, 3 of which are in the top 100, 1 in 150, 4 in the 6 in the top 200. And so depending on your area of interest, we're likely performing well when compared with our peers around the world, whether or not you had heard of Ca Foscari before discovering this webinar. But excellence in teaching and research only gets you so far. In today's day and age, universities are called upon to be something more than merely excellent. And so Ca Foscari understands and respects the need for universities like ours to be institutions that are thinking about the future, about how to envision, pursue, and help realize a better one through the teaching, research, and public outreach that we carry out. And the image that you see on the screen is actually of a base camp up in the Dolomite Mountains. We have a polar sciences program that is carrying out research by extracting ice cores from glaciers in order to study the climate of the past to better understand the climate of the future. So this idea of having an impact and making a difference are important to us. And as a consequence, we consider the study and understanding of our ever more globalized society, that this has to be one of the core aspects of the research and teaching that we do. And also as a consequence, the student experience that we offer. In addition, we'll encourage interdisciplinarity in our students, especially when that interdisciplinarity is in the service of devising innovative solutions to the kinds of global challenges that are making our lives increasingly difficult. And we're also committed to the principle of sustainability in all of its forms. And if you think about Venice as a place and what you'll have heard about the delicate future of Venice, you can understand why these themes are so important to us. Another thing that distinguishes us particularly, however, is our passion for internationalization. So I wanted to talk briefly about that. I'm clearly here on the THE student website trying to talk to you about the idea of choosing us as a study destination. And that's because we want our campus to have a global context and feel. We rank first among Italian universities of our category for our commitment to internationalization. So the Italian government has acknowledged how good at this we are. We're also actively involved in creating networks with other universities, both within Europe and beyond. And so we have joined a European University Alliance. You may have heard of this phenomenon in Europe. This is this idea of creating the universities of the future by bringing together the expertise of a group of European universities. So there's strength in numbers. And our alliance is called Utopia, and it brings us in connection with 9 other institutions scattered across Europe, including UPF in Barcelona, Cergy in Paris, TU Dresden in Germany. So all of their resources become resources that are accessible to our students as well. I think that the number of European Union funded Marie Curie fellows we've attracted definitely suggests that our context is welcoming to international researchers. We've attracted more than 140 of them since this program was initiated, and that makes us the first in Italy and the 5th in all of Europe for how often we are chosen by these up-and-coming young researchers who've received European funding for their cutting-edge research. In terms of what we offer our students directly, though, it's important to understand that we believe in making your experience international while you're here as a student. So we have more than 500 agreements for academic exchange, more than 30 joint and double degrees. So yeah, wherever you are in the world, you might choose to join us in Venice, but we'll then encourage you to consider the idea of spending a semester or a year of your program of study abroad at one of our partner universities. And that internationalization continues even beyond graduation. We have 11 alumni chapters scattered around the globe to help you stay connected to your fellow alumni, both Italian and from abroad. All right, so I'm not sure how much you know about study in Europe or studying specifically in Italy. So I thought I would just briefly remind everyone how this works. So we have 3-year bachelor's degrees, 2-year master's degrees, and then doctoral degrees that take 3 or more years. Now, we're here to talk principally about graduate studies at the master's level. So I wanted to explain that a master's degree at Ca Foscari, as is the case with European degrees, requires you to earn 120 ECTS, or European Credit Transfer System credits. To make life simple, we've equated 1 Ca Foscari University credit to 1 ECTS, and you need 60 of these each year to complete a master's degree. Now, one of those credits is about 25 hours of work, and that's adding together what you do in the classroom and what you do outside the classroom. Now, in order to access university studies in Italy, it's important to keep in mind that your bachelor's degree needs to be the result of at least 3 years of study. Now, in terms of our study programs, you can see that we offer a broad range that span from the bachelor's level to the doctoral level, as we mentioned. And also we have a wide offering of professional master's programs, but we're here to talk about our master's degrees, these 2-year degrees. You'll notice this is our richest offer with 39 programs, and 18 of these are taught entirely in English, requiring absolutely no knowledge of Italian. So let's talk a little bit about what we have on offer. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on describing these programs because there are so many of them, but I'm hoping that they'll spark an interest and encourage you to take a better look at their respective study plans if you see something that is up your alley. So in the economics and management field, we have a really broad offer. Things like data analytics for business and society give you an opportunity to learn how to analyze and harness big data. Our economics, finance, and sustainability degree has a couple of tracks. That inclusion of sustainability is getting back to what we were talking about before. And that is one of the tracks available within the degree, focusing on how interest in sustainability is opening up opportunities in the world of business and commerce. We have an economics and management of arts and cultural activities degree, which is an interdisciplinary program bringing together aspects of management and a knowledge of arts and culture. And then we have some pretty typical degree programs that are international in character. So global accounting and finance, global development and entrepreneurship, innovation and marketing, and international management. Moving on to our international studies and globalization area, if you're interested in international relations, we have a degree in that particular field with 2 different tracks, one focusing on European Union studies and another on global studies. Our European American and Post-Colonial Languages and Literatures program offers the chance to study either British or English literature or American literature. Our Language Sciences program, of course, is our linguistics program. And our environmental humanities program is one of my favorites. This is actually about how we can harness the humanities in order to encourage a greater awareness of and concern for our environmental circumstances and the dangers that we're facing in terms of our environment. We also have a fantastic degree in the conservation science and technology for cultural heritage. So for those of you who are scientists interested in the arts, this is a fantastic opportunity, again, interdisciplinary in nature. In the science and technology field, we offer 3 different tracks in our computer science and information technology degree, so definitely take a closer look at that. For instance, if you're interested in data processing or cybersecurity, this could be the program for you. Our engineering physics degree is a new entry, but it's a fantastic one. We've attracted some really cutting-edge professors to teach for the program, so have a look at that if that's your field. Our environmental sciences degree is a very popular one with our international students and has a large number of international students enrolled. Our science and technology of bio and nanomaterials offers the opportunity to focus more specifically on biomaterials or nanomaterials. And then we have a biomolecular chemistry curriculum in our sustainable chemistry and technologies degree. Our digital and public humanities is another fantastic example of how we're harnessing interdisciplinarity to create new areas of study and, as a consequence, new work opportunities. And that degree is particularly interesting to those of you who have a humanities background but are interested in expanding into how the digital tools we have available to us today can give better access to or create more interest in the arts. All right, so depending on the particular program that you're interested in, it could land you on one of a number of different campuses because, as we've said, Ca Foscari has expanded remarkably over the course of the last 150 years. And so we are no longer exclusively in the historic city of Venice. We have also expanded onto the Italian mainland, the modern part of Venice. So the map that you see is showing you Venice nestled in its watery lagoon, and you can see the fish-shaped island. There, of course, we do have 3 of our campuses, economics, humanities, and linguistics campuses. But if you're studying a science and technology program, that will place you on our science campus in the modern part of Venice known as Mestre, on the Venetian mainland. And the distance between those 2 is a simple 10-minute ride on a tram or a bus or a train. And we also have a campus in Treviso, which is about a 40-minute train ride from Venice. But we only have one English taught program offered there, and that's our Global Development and Entrepreneurship program. So let's zoom in on Venice again. Here's our fish-shaped island, our historic center. You can see that our economics campus is located in the northern part of the city, up by the bridge that you see leading off to the upper left, taking us to the Italian mainland. And that's a more traditional campus with all of its buildings gathered around a main quadrangle. And so it'll be familiar to you in terms of its typology. On the other hand, our humanities and linguistics campuses, as you can see, are scattered throughout the belly of the fish in the lower part of the city. And so people who study on these campuses actually find themselves moving through the city from one class to the other. I know it's always handy to have a couple of images of what these campuses look like. So here are a couple of shots of our economics campus. You can see the green quadrangle. The building in the back on the photo on the right is of our library. And on the left-hand image, you can see some of these social and study spaces that are available in the nice weather outdoors, and some of the buildings that house our classrooms and our professors' offices. Now, our humanities campus, like our economics campus and our others in the city center, have involved taking historical buildings and refurbishing them to make them modern with all of the kinds of technological resources that you would expect to have at a modern university. And our linguistics campus is just the same. Here you can see, in fact, one of the larger structures where we have a lot of the classrooms for our linguistics and languages programs. Our science campus is a whole different affair. As you can see, it's remarkably modern. That's because it was begun to be constructed in 2017, as you saw earlier, on the Venetian mainland, where, of course, we're not bound by the constraints of constructing in a historic center of a European city. And so all of the resources available to our science and tech students are, of course, top of the line and cutting edge. Our Treviso campus is another gem. You can even notice that Treviso has its own little canals. It's almost like a miniature Venice. And as I mentioned, our Global Development and Entrepreneurship program is offered here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about student services and opportunities. This is a pretty broad category, and it's going to include a discussion of some of what we can do to help our master's graduates launch their careers. But first, let's talk about the idea of arriving at Ca Foscari. Obviously, as an international student, you're concerned about the kinds of things the university can offer and provide in helping you to smooth that transition from your home country, your home education system, into the experience of studying and living in Italy, and specifically in our case, in northeastern Italy, in Venice and its surrounding area. So we do a lot in order to make sure that that transition is as comfortable as possible. For instance, we offer a host of welcome and immigration services and activities. My particular part of the international office makes a contribution by organizing our International Welcome Week, which takes place at the beginning of each year. And that offers both orientation and administrative sessions to get you on the ground running in terms of your experience as a student, but it also offers a ton of different experiences socially in order to help you create that friend network that is so important when you're starting life over in a brand new place. We have a financial aid office that can obviously be of assistance with financial concerns. Our buddy program is definitely something that our international students tell us has been incredibly important to their settling in here. And this is, of course, a volunteer program that allows our upper year students, both international and national, to offer themselves as companions to help you learn about how to do things here in Italian life and as a Ca Foscari student. And they're accessible to you from the minute that you're getting ready to come here a couple of months before the beginning of studies. And so you're even able to reach out to them before you arrive. They're also active on an app that we've recently made available to our new international students. It's a service provided by a company called Goin. It's essentially a closed social network that's exclusively for the use of our international students who are newly enrolling students and are currently enrolled international students. You would have access to that the minute you receive an acceptance letter from us. And so that too is a context where you can start making connections, learning from your peers, perhaps even finding roommates. And so so that too is a service that connects with our buddy program. We also have campus tutors. These are figures who are available on each of our respective campuses and who are providing different kinds of webinars and events in order to help you understand the ropes of the Italian education system. So understanding how to fill out your study plan, what kind of flexibility you have in doing that. Also in assisting you in how you go about registering for exams and in understanding how the exam system works here in Italy. We also have counseling, and that is something that has become, of course, an essential element in providing a well-rounded range of services to both international and national students. And I also want to mention our housing office. In fact, I want to spend a moment with our housing office specifically. Obviously, finding a place to live is one of the greatest concerns of international students when they take that leap of going abroad, and understandably so. If you've been reading about European universities recently, you might also have noticed that housing has become a challenge in a lot of European cities. In particular, the Netherlands have made the news because of the lack of student housing. Well, student housing is not something that grows on trees in any part of Europe. However, we are doing our best in order to make sure that our international students can comfortably find a place to live that meets their expectations. And our housing office is important in this. So it offers professional assistance with finding the right accommodation given your particular needs and interests. It also offers support in the signing of a fair and clear rental agreement. And this is something that really is a game changer, I think, when you're trying to settle into the idea of making a decision about where to live, especially when you're not able to visit that home, very likely, before you arrive to live in it. For non-EU students in particular, they also offer a letter that's attesting the rental agreement, which can help with the obtainment of the visa that you need, of course, in order to study in Italy as a university student. Now, because this service is professional in nature, in fact, it's offered in collaboration between our staff and an external provider that has expertise in working in this particular area. There is a fee in the event that the housing office satisfies your expectations. Now, when thinking about the kinds of housing that you could be looking for, there are three main typologies of student housing that our students take advantage of. So there's regional government operated student residences, then there are privately managed student residences, and there are privately owned shared apartments. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some of the residences we've constructed recently to give you an understanding of the kinds of services and living arrangements that you could have access to. I will emphasize that we don't have enough room in all of our residences for all of our newly enrolled international students each year. So one of the tricks is to make sure that you apply early in order to have access to these kinds of resources as soon as possible after having obtained your visa. So here I'm showing you a residence that's located in the historic center of Venice, down in the area where our linguistics and humanities campuses are located, the belly of the fish. It has 650 beds, so it's a really large structure, and as a consequence, it has a ton of different resources and services available to you, including things like green and common areas and a restaurant. And here's another example, which is actually located in the northern part of the city up on our economics campus. In fact, here on the left is another view of that campus. And the building that you see closing off the view at the far back end is this new residence. It just opened in 2021, and it only has 220 beds, so it's a little bit smaller, but it has some fantastic common areas, a gym, a rooftop terrace, which gives a remarkable view of the city, and a restaurant and cafeteria services as well. So these are definitely options to keep in mind. I will point out that the bulk of our students, though, actually live in shared apartments that are privately owned. And so our housing office is particularly effective in finding opportunities in that particular kind of context. All right, so thinking about some different kinds of services that are more connected with the academic experience. I've already mentioned the importance for us in making your experience international of mobility programs and joint and double degrees. But we also make sure to encourage an interest in the Italian language and in learning more about the culture and history of this place. And so we have courses that are offered in English to help you learn both the Italian language and about its cultural background and context. We also have things like contamination labs, which are parallel educational experiences with respect to your principal degree program. These are moments where we bring together students from different study areas, again, encouraging that idea of interdisciplinarity, and have them work closely in using innovative learning techniques for intensive periods. So these usually last 6 weeks and offer 6 credits. We also have an international college, which is our honors college, and it accepts a number of master's students each year. It offers financial support for the students who are selected, and obviously it's looking for the best and the brightest and the most well-rounded students who are interested in coming to Ca Foscari. That's a fantastic opportunity because, once again, there are parallel learning experiences with respect to your main degree program. In this case, you'd be taking courses with the group of students who are in the international college focused on different areas of interdisciplinary study. The Venice International University is another fantastic opportunity. This is a conglomerate of universities from around the world, including, for instance, Waseda University in Japan, Duke University in the United States, and all of these universities collectively manage a campus situated on an island in the Venetian Lagoon. And all of its courses are offered by professors from the various universities who bring students from their institutions. And as a Ca Foscari student, you would have access to all of these. So all of this, of course, instruction is completely carried out in English. And so it's a moment where the world converges on our campus and on this shared campus, bringing the world to you here at Ca Foscari. We also have international summer schools, which are very popular with our international students who want to rack up a couple of credits over the summer. And one of the most interesting and popular is our Harvard Summer School, which is taught in collaboration with professors from Harvard and students from that institution. All right, thinking beyond the classroom, obviously, as students interested in a master's degree, you're going to be needing to carry out some research because all of our master's degrees involve carrying out research and carrying out a thesis project. So it's important that you know that we have a network of 6 thematically organized libraries located in conjunction with the different campuses that we've discussed. We also have a competency center for soft skills because naturally these are the kind of things that you're going to need to be cultivating in parallel with the kind of learning that you're doing in the classroom. Naturally, we also have other contexts in which you can immerse yourself in cultural experiences or sporting activities. So our theater, our sports center, and our student associations are important in that regard. But one of the things I'm proudest of, and I think something that is completely natural as a consequence of the city in which we're located, is our remarkably rich calendar of academic and cultural events. All right, now when you signed up for this webinar, you were interested in how graduate studies in Venice could help launch your career. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking particularly about what Ca Foscari does in assisting our master's graduates to do just that, to launch their career after graduation. Now, some of you are going to be interested in moving on to a doctoral degree, but that doesn't mean that you can't be taking advantage of a lot of these opportunities in order to enrich your CV nonetheless. So I'm proud to say that we are considered to be in the top 500 universities in the world for graduate employability, which means that our students find jobs. It's also important to keep in mind that all of our master's degrees incorporate a curricular internship. So that means you're getting credit for carrying out an internship, which is giving you professional experience in a field related to your studies. But most importantly, in order to kind of coordinate all of this. And part of the reason for which we're in the top 500 in the world for graduate employability is because of our excellent career service. It has 4 different units, each of which deals with a different aspect of what you need in terms of services to launch your career. So we have a career development and guidance unit, a business partnerships and recruitment events unit, an internships in Italy unit, and an internships abroad unit. All right, so talking about career development and guidance, there's some really neat services that you can take advantage of from the minute you enroll, including our career desk, which allows you to book one-on-one guidance sessions with a career advisor so that you can talk about and plan skill development, think about the development of your career, where you want it to take you, what it should be composed of, what steps it will involve, and also help with understanding how to put you in the best light in your CV and your cover letters. We've also introduced, since COVID, a mentoring project that allows you to virtually job shadow a professional in a relevant field to help you gain experience and develop your career action plan. And we've had incredibly positive feedback about that in particular. We also organize, obviously, through our career service, a host of workshops that are focusing on skills development and things like the trends of the Italian and international labor markets and the kinds of career paths that we're finding our students are particularly enjoying or having success in. Now, obviously, digital tools are important in all of this. While I will naturally encourage you to take advantage of our in-person services, it's also nice to know that there are things that are available 24/7 to you in that moment when you feel like you have a bit of time to dedicate to thinking about your future. And so we have a service that we offer that is an externally provided platform called Jobiri. This is an AI-driven platform that helps you improve your employability and search for job offers. So the platform can provide feedback on your CV and your cover letters, and it also offers you the opportunity to learn about and practice your interview skills. So that's a fantastic opportunity as well. But I think internships, you'll agree, are one of the things that are going to change the game because they're an opportunity for you to start networking, to start showing people in the professional world the kinds of skills you've acquired and the kinds of talent that you can put in play. And so we, as you've noticed, have 2 internship units, one dedicated to national internships and one dedicated to international internships. These units have a platform where they gather and publicize local international employers' offers of employment. And they work hard to make sure that they have agreements in place so that they already have some suggestions and some contexts in which to place our students. And there's more than 10,000 of those, with a couple hundred of those abroad. So obviously internships can be either curricular for credit. We mentioned that you need to carry out a curricular internship for your degree, or non-curricular. And those, regardless of their nature, can happen either in Italy or abroad. And so internship opportunities, thanks to our internship units, there's really no limit to the possibilities. If you can think of a context where you would love to carry out an internship, then you can be asking our units for assistance in making that a reality. Now, the internships they can organize for students, people are currently enrolled, can range from 1 to 12 months in duration. But I would point out that for recent graduates in particular, there's the opportunity to, in Italy, carry out an internship from 2 to 6 months in length, and actually have an obligatory contribution made by the employer. Now, those internships can also take place abroad after graduation, and there perhaps a contribution to expenses and such could be negotiated. But this is something that I can guarantee in Italy, and that would have to be negotiated specifically with the internship provider if it were international. There are also a number of programs that really expand the possibilities for searching for a traineeship or an internship that's exactly right for you. And what you see on the screen here are opportunities that come with funding. Obviously, being in Europe has its advantages. So we have access to Erasmus Plus funding, in this case for traineeships. And those traineeships can take place at any organization in a European country. and they're for both students and recent graduates. We also have worldwide internships, and those can take place at any organization outside the EU. And those are only for students, so something to take advantage of while you're still enrolled. Our global internships program is something that actually branches out beyond the European Union and targets recent graduates. So thinking about all of these kinds of opportunities, internships are definitely going to be something that will be an aspect of your experience here and that will enrich your sense of preparedness for the working world. Also dear to my heart is our Center for Women's Leadership, which is called Lei. And in Italian, that means she or her. And this is a fantastic new entry. It's only existed for a couple of years. And it's about obviously encouraging an empowerment of our female students and encouraging inclusivity and equality. It organizes panel events and workshops and lecture series. So this is definitely for those of you who are interested in getting that extra push from a sisterhood. This is a fantastic context and opportunity as well. Now, actually coming into contact with employers, having the opportunity to interview with them or to have them explain what they're looking for and describe the work opportunities they have on offer, this is essential. So our career service also organizes career days and an orientation week. Now, these career days take place both on campus and online, and some of those events take place in Italian and others take place in English. Obviously, the English events are dedicated to international and multinational employers who are interested in students who will have the kind of skill set that you will if you graduate from one of our master's degrees. I also wanted to point out, in fact, you're seeing on the screen, one of our events taking place in a gorgeous historic building where our students are being paired and matched for interviews with many of our partners. And you can see here that we've got orientation week workshops that will very likely be something you'll want to take advantage of. Give you a sense of some of the businesses that we have partnered with and the kinds of employers we can connect you with as students. I've thrown up the logos of a range of different companies. These are, of course, not all of them. This is just a smattering. And I wanted that smattering to demonstrate that we have both international companies from outside of Italy, but also Italian companies. So for those of you who are thinking about the idea of coming to Italy and potentially staying in Italy and using what you've learned to work here, we can put you in contact with Italian employers as well. All right, so let's consider this idea of a future working in Italy. It's important to keep in mind that non-EU students, while they're enrolled and have their student visa, can work for 20 hours a week. So this is an important plus in thinking about how to fund your educational experience in the event that cost is a concern. You also, after graduation, can transform your study visa into a one-year employment-seeking visa. And so this is also something that's significant for those of you who are interested in the idea of staying in Italy after graduation. If you were to find long-term employment during that first year after graduation, then that visa can be extended. Keep in mind that the northeast of Italy, where we're located, is a commercial and industrial hub, rich with small, medium, and large businesses. So there are a lot of employment opportunities in the region. And a tip for success, if you are thinking about this as something that is appealing, even in English-speaking contexts, it will be a really important skill to know some Italian. And so I will point out that we offer free online Italian lessons to our newly enrolled students in order to encourage that you learn the language. Unfortunately, it is an easy one. All right, so let's talk briefly about living in Venice. Here I'm again showing you an image of the city. You can see the fish-shaped island in the upper portion of the photograph with the mainland extending to the top of the photo and the Adriatic Sea down to the bottom. I think a lot of people feel like they know what Venice is like, and I think that they often get it wrong. So I thought I'd take a second to talk about some assumptions. I think a lot of people think that Venice is just for tourists, that it has constant problems with flooding, because that's usually why we make the international news, or that it's more a museum than a city, so that you come here to go for a gondola ride or to have your honeymoon, or that it's for hopeless romantics. So let's deconstruct these myths. The reality is that Venice is very much a student city. There are 30,000 residents in Venice and 50,000 residents, sorry, and 30,000 university students registered at higher education institutions in the city. So if you think about those numbers, that means that as you move through the city, you're constantly running into your peers, running into other students. It's also offering a sustainable lifestyle. Obviously, the historic center is pedestrian, and public transportation is extensively used here. And so it makes living here as a student very manageable. Flooding is now limited. I'm not going to pretend that climate change is not a massive problem. It is, and sea level rise is a concern for Venice. However, to mitigate that issue over the next number of decades, we now have the mose, which are flood barriers that are used to close off the lagoon when we know that the tide level in the Adriatic Sea is going to be too high for the city. So actually, it's been a really long time since I've had to put on my rubber boots out of concern that parts of the city might be a little bit underwater. But also, I think the important thing to keep in mind is that Venice is about culture and events always and everywhere. So if we think about Venice for students, I want you to think about a place where all space is social, especially spaces outdoors. Italians use all public space as social space. This idea of moving around in the historic center on foot and by boat is probably fundamentally different than what you're used to, but is a fantastic way to live as a student. Keep in mind, too, that where we are, we have access to the beach. And I didn't throw in an image, but we're only 2 hours away from the Dolomites, from the Alps, from the mountains. International events are, there's a fantastic calendar of them. And what I'm showing you in the image here is a work of art that's on display, or was on display, in one of the Venice Biennale, these international cultural events that happen yearly. And then, of course, there are a ton of fantastic local festivals. The image in the middle on the bottom is of Carnival, which, of course, Venice is well known for. And the bottom one on the right is of a festival that celebrates Venice's deliverance from the Black Death back in the 16th century, that we've celebrated ever since, with a fantastic fireworks display and a feast, things that our students get really involved in and look forward to every year. It's also worth keeping in mind that although you do not need a geography lesson, I thought it might be nice to just have in your mind's eye how well situated Venice is if you're interested in taking advantage of your master's degree studies as a chance to explore Europe. Thanks to low-cost airlines and trains, it's easy to travel around Europe. And so even over a weekend, you could be in another European capital exploring and learning. All right, so let's talk about tuition fees, financial aid, and cost of living. Our university is eminently affordable. The costs that you see here on the screen, of course, are for our master's degrees, so no one pays more than 2,500 euros a year. That likely, if you're looking at a range of opportunities for studying around the world, it likely seems very, very low. That's because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we are a public university and receive extensive subsidies from the Italian government. But I think what sets Italian public institutions apart is that we extend that respect, keeping university affordable, to international students. In fact, if you look at what you see on the screen, anyone from outside the EU at Ca Foscari is actually paying less than our domestic students are. So this turns on its head the British, Canadian, Australian systems, the American system, where students coming from abroad are actually considered a cash cow, that they're supposed to pay more in order to subsidize the cost for local students. We, despite having very low fees, do offer merit-based financial aid for our most excellent applicants. And so on the screen, you see what we're offering for students enrolling in 2024-2025. We have 2 Ca Foscari Academic Excellence Scholarships that are €8,500 a year, renewable for the second year of the master's degree, and then 28 other Ca Foscari Honors Scholarships, which are €7,000 a year for 2 years, so a renewable scholarship. And you definitely want to consider having a look at that if your CGPA from your undergraduate degree is 85% or higher, which is one of the requirements in order to apply for this financial aid. In terms of living expenses, we try to tell students that they need about €800 a month for ordinary living expenses, so setting aside the question of tuition fees. But what you spend depends on how you live. So the numbers that you see on the screen are indicative, and all of that would depend on you. Certainly, living on the mainland is a far more affordable option than living in the historic center, and as a result, most of our students choose to do that. All right, so I just want to spend 1 minute talking about how you go about applying for admission, in the hope that something of what you've heard today is encouraging to think about the idea that Ca Foscari could be a good fit. So our admission requirements for our master's degrees, as we've said, you need to have a valid undergraduate university qualification that is the result of at least 3 years of study. You also need to have the minimum curricular prerequisites for your particular program of interest. This means specific quantities of undergraduate coursework carried out in relevant areas of study. Obviously, the master's degree needs to be a deepening of your understanding of a specific area of study, so you need to have experience and background in that area. You can find all of this information, of course, on our website for the specific program that interests you. For our English taught degrees, you'll need to demonstrate that you have a B2 level or upper intermediate knowledge of English, although a few of our languages and cultures programs have additional language requirements. And then if you're interested in an Italian taught degree, then you will also actually have to have a B2 level in Italian together with your B2 level in English. Now, everything takes place entirely online. Our online application platform is called apply.univet.it. There are news sections that help you keep up to date and informed about opportunities and deadlines. And we have our program-specific pages that tell you everything you need to know. For instance, your curricular prerequisites for your program. In order to apply, it's simple. You register, you fill out your application, you upload the required documents, pay the €30 application fee, which allows you to apply for up to 2 programs of study. And then after you've submitted your application, your entry requirements are evaluated to confirm your eligibility. And then if your course requires it, you take an entry test. So that's what I wanted to tell you about during today's webinar. But obviously, I would encourage you to get to know us even better. Our website is definitely a great place to start, as is our application platform. If you're interested in writing to us directly, then you know that you can find us by writing to prospective.students@univet.it. And I would also encourage you to check out our social media. In particular, I love to encourage students to check out our Student Life in Venice account on Instagram. That is entirely student run. And so there you'll find the complementary part to what I've described today, which is to say students talking about their own experiences. So Karen, I think that's where I would end things. And I know that at this point we could move on to some questions.
Of course. Thank you very much, Christina, for your brilliant presentation today. As you just say, we are going to give a few minutes to our Q&A session. So I am going to start reading and then you can answer if that's okay.
Okay.
Well, the first question here says, can I study Italian alongside my master's degree?
Absolutely. In fact, I would encourage you to do that. And Ca Foscari is so interested in you doing precisely that for your first year, we offer access to online Italian courses for free. And that's something we just started doing because we realized that sometimes international students need that extra little push, making it a little bit easier in order to take that additional step. Because we know it's a busy time when you begin studies abroad in a new place, in a new country. But yeah, starting right off the bat, learning Italian, we encourage it and we make it easy.
Brilliant, thank you. The second question here says, do you offer or do you have any networking opportunities?
Okay, so networking obviously depends on the way you're thinking about networking. Obviously, the master's student, there are ways of networking with peers who are interested in similar areas of research. And there, absolutely, again, we encourage this kind of thing. I mentioned at one point in the presentation, for instance, how many partner universities we have and how many opportunities there are to carry out experiences abroad. Definitely this is all networking. So it's about going to a new institution, mingling with a different group of students, showing what you have to offer to additional professors, and all of that becomes networking. I think too, our European University Alliance is really helpful in this because it's sort of like an extended European student family that brings together also the professors from those institutions. And so, for instance, in those communities, we have what are called collaborative, connected communities. And so there, we've created contexts where students in a shared study field are able to interact across those 10 institutions. So yeah, you'll be part of the Ca Foscari family, but you'll also be part of this broader European family, which brings together 9 other universities in 9 other European countries. In terms of professional networking, everything I talked about that our career service offers is right up your alley. So these are opportunities to be in direct contact with mentors, with employers, to actually organize interviews with employers, and also to seek opportunities for internships that could lead to employment, because obviously an internship is a networking opportunity.
Great, thank you very much for your answer. There is a question here related to internships. Now that you're bringing it up, it
Sure.
says, um, are there paid internships available?
Absolutely. There are obviously work opportunities that could then be treated or considered as an internship as well. So here's where we have that overlapping of different kinds of activities and how those are interpreted. So for your master's degree, you'll need to carry out a curricular internship, which is usually a 6-unit internship. And so that means 200 hours. Okay. And so you can carry out a work experience that can then be paid, but also recognized as curricular internship, or that curricular internship could be unpaid, but exactly the kind of experience that you're looking to obtain. So yeah, it's a complicated kind of nexus of opportunities and the way we characterize those. Paid and unpaid, curricular, non-curricular, the world is your oyster. You can even carry out more than one internship. So it's really a question of how interested you are in obtaining these experiences.
Great, thank you. There are two questions related to like the work life for an international student. So it says, would I be able to work and study there? And how long can I stay after my studies? And then there's another one that also says, can I work while I am studying?
Sure. So I'm going to give 2 answers to that question. If you are a European national, then you can do as you please. If you're coming from a non-EU country, then you'll need to obtain a study visa to study in an Italian institution, okay? And that study visa gives you the right to do part-time work, which means 20 hours a week. So absolutely. Now that work can take place off campus, or you could also take advantage of some of the employment opportunities offered on campus. For instance, our international office hires a ton of students each year to help us with various activities. So in terms of finding opportunities, yes, there are lots of them. I will be straight up and say, however, that while on-campus opportunities often can take place entirely in English, you would be coming to live in Italy. And so in order to give you a leg up and give you an opportunity to have all of the work opportunities available to you, which gets us back to the question another person asked earlier, it would be wonderful to start learning Italian. So in my mind, the minute you're thinking about a European country as a destination, regardless of which one it is, if Italy's one of them, then learning Italian would be a great investment, starting even before you join us. And taking advantage of free online tools to do it. Then we'll help you once you join us, hitting the ground running with courses. But that definitely will be something that will crack open a world of opportunity for part-time work. In terms of work after graduation, so as I mentioned, you can convert your study visa into a 1-year work visa. I'm aware that that's a shorter period of time than other countries sometimes offer. I know that Canada, the UK offer a longer period for looking for work. But to be quite honest, I think you're going to want to strike while the iron is hot in that year after you graduate and find those opportunities right after you've gathered that skill, gotten that diploma. And so that first year after graduation is when things happen. And so if you do find gainful employment in that year with that work visa, then it is possible to extend the visa.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah,
There are a few questions here related to the language now that you were also talking about it. And one
sure.
says, do I need to know Italian? And the other one says, how high does my English level needs to be? And do you accept any kind of Duolingo test, or what is the English proficiency test that you require?
Okay, so there were a lot of questions in there. Let me see if I can remember them all. So Duolingo, we don't yet accept it. We're evaluating the idea of doing so, but we have not yet accepted it. When we had a look at it a year or two ago, we decided that it wasn't carrying out the same kind of examination experience as things like the TOEFL, the Cambridge, the IELTS. So all of those we accept, as well as a host of others, and you can find all of this on our website under language requirements. You do need to have a B2 level knowledge of English in order to enroll in our master's programs that are taught in English. Now, if you happen to have carried out your undergraduate studies entirely taught in English, then you're exonerated from needing to provide that language certification. But B2 is what we expect. So that's an upper intermediate level according to the European standard of language knowledge classification. In terms of needing Italian, I'm going to say you need Italian because you want to live your student life 360 degrees. But the truth of the matter is, you don't. So you can come and attend Ca Foscari University and never learn a word of Italian because we provide our services in English. Your courses, if you enroll in an English taught program, are entirely taught in English. Examination takes place in English. And I would also point out that because of the international character of our university, all of our Italian students have to know English. So in order to enroll in an Italian taught program, our Italian domestic students need to know English at a B2 level, because we know that to be a university graduate of a master's program today, not knowing English is not acceptable. And it's also worth saying that even our undergraduate students have a B1 level of English at least. So I think in that sense, you can have a sense of how you'll be able to take advantage of student life and campus life and academic life, but learn Italian anyway.
Great, thank you very much. Well, we have some questions here related to cost of living in Venice. It's
Sure.
what's the average cost of living, and there are, I think that I can say, there are two related to accommodation. So the first one says, do you offer accommodation on campus? That you already answered that one.
Yeah.
And it says, will I get my accommodation? Will I get help with my accommodation research? And is it expensive to live in Italy?
Yeah, so I tried to give a snapshot of that a little earlier. So this idea that we usually tell students it's about 800 euros a month for cost of living. And that's to live a normal life. If you're interested in being out and eating in restaurants every evening, that budget's going to have to go up. But if you're willing to cook your meals and be a little more modest and be out for what in Italy is the most popular moment of the day anyway, the aperitivo, right? That pre-dinner drink and snack, that's a really affordable way to live. So I think the cost of living question is a hard one. But what we say is 800 euros a month, separate from tuition, okay? In terms of where you live, you can save a lot of money by choosing to live on the mainland. If you look at any European city and you think about living in its historic center, okay, think about Paris or London, it's always the most expensive in the center. And the farther away from the center you move, and the farther away from those historically built up areas you move, the more affordable it becomes. The good thing is that with Venice, there's this sort of yin-yang kind of arrangement where we've got our historic center, the island that's in the lagoon, which is connected by a bridge to the mainland. And that mainland part is also Venice. It's Venezia Mestre. And so that modern part is modern in all senses. It feels like a modern city. It has modern transportation. There are cars because it's not in the historic center of Venice. And their life is much more affordable. Also, for those of you, depending if you're going to be feeling a bit homesick and you want to find stores that sell foods from your part of the world because you're going to want to be preparing that specific dish that you can't live without, then definitely the mainland is the place to be, because there are a ton of grocery stores and these kinds of additional services and such. So the better part of our students choose to live on the mainland. Now, I mentioned that we have accommodation in residences, and definitely, if you're interested in that kind of a formula, I would encourage you to request that opportunity, but we don't have room for everybody. So the key here is to make sure that you apply early. Now, for those of you who are interested in applying for September, we're starting to accept applications for admission in September 2024 on December 18th. So about less than a month away at this point. And we'll be accepting applications from non-EU applicants from most of the world until March 29th. But my advice to you is don't apply on March 29th. If you've liked what you've heard and you're interested in this opportunity, apply on December 18th. And that way you get that ball rolling, you get your acceptance letter early, you can apply for your visa sooner. And once you have that visa in hand and you know that the pathway is prepared, then you can arrange your accommodation. So yes, start early and be rewarded.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, actually we had a question related to how long in advance should I apply and so on. So it was really helpful.
Excellent, especially because I know we're running out of time. But I just thank you so much to everyone for asking these great questions, because you're also giving me a chance to go back over some of the things that I spoke about earlier in the presentation. So it's perfect.
Great. There's another question here related to applications, and it says, do I have to pay an application fee?
Yes, so the application fee is 30 euros, and that 30 euro application fee allows you to choose up to 2 programs. So, for instance, somebody who's interested in the economics and management field might choose to put in international management and innovation and marketing. So if you have 2 study plans that you find are particularly appealing, you're welcome to apply to 2 programs. Naturally, we have a lot of applicants who see the one program that's for them and apply for just that one. But either way, it's a 30 euro fee.
Great, thank you very much. Here we have another question that says, could you please give us more information about the tuition fees for a 2-year master's degree? Like, for example, the international management program?
Right, sure. So for most students, that will range between 1,300 euro and 2,500 euro. But that depends on nationality, as I mentioned earlier. So in order to see exactly what you would have to pay based on your nationality, because I'm sure we have students from a range of nationalities listening in today, I would recommend that you go to apply.unive.it, which is our application platform. And there in the upper right-hand corner, you can indicate your nationality. Once you've done that and you hunt for your program of interest, it'll immediately show you the cost of the yearly tuition fees for someone coming from your country.
Great, so we just leave the website here in the chat
Perfect.
box. You can just access the link and easily find the information. Well, let's go with the next question. It says, what kind of financial aid do you offer for international students?
Okay, so Ca Foscari is really interested, obviously, in encouraging students to apply who are high achieving. And so we've put our money where our mouth is, and we offer merit-based scholarships. So as I mentioned earlier, we have two particularly large scholarships, which considering our tuition fees, we think are very large. Obviously, everything's relative, but with tuition fees that are at the most 2,500 euros a year, our large scholarship package, of which we have two on offer for the fall of next year, that's 8,500 euro per year. So it's a renewable scholarship that accompanies you through to the moment of graduation. We also have another 28 scholarships that are for a total of 7,000 euro. And that again is a renewable scholarship. So these are competitive. A student needs to have at least an 85% CGPA or cumulative grade point average in their undergraduate degree to apply. And it also involves a couple of other little steps, including providing a letter of reference if you're applying for a master's level program. And you can actually apply for with up to 2 letters. And you can also provide us with a video, a motivational video, which talks about why the program that you've chosen and why Ca Foscari as a destination are the right fit for you, where you think those particular opportunities are going to take you. So definitely, if you have an 85% or greater CGPA from your undergraduate degree, you need to look into these.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We're almost done. And our next question says, what is the minimum wage in Italy?
You know, that's an excellent question, and one that I do not have an answer for. I'm not sure. What I can say, though, is that wages in Italy are very much connected to the field of activity and also to your professional expertise and to what you bring to the table. So negotiating wages is something that's going to be a consequence of your particular skill set and knowledge. Especially thinking about, of course, I'm speaking here to people who are going to be master's graduates, right? So you're not looking for a job with a minimum wage. You're looking for a job that's going to launch a career, one that's going to be long and successful. So I think we shouldn't think in those terms, but I respect and I understand the question.
Great. I think it was like more in the way of living as an international student and getting like international like students
Well,
jobs.
for instance, on campus, when we have student opportunities, we have a package for student employment that offers €7 an hour. And then if the hours to be completed are completed in full, then there's also a bonus. So I can think about the way we do things here, but I must admit, I'm not sure what you would earn working at, let's say, a local McDonald's. It's an excellent question.
Great, thank you. Well, our last question here says, can I take a dual degree in Italy?
Yes, so we have a wide range of joint and double degrees that we offer. And so these are very specific pairings and they're associated with very specific degree programs. So what I would encourage you to do is to have a look at the degree program that interests you to see if there's a double or joint degree option available. Not all of our programs have them. A couple of our programs have more than one. And so it's important that you go and you have a look specifically at the program that interests you. Karen, I can't hear you there.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah. I was saying thank you very much for your brilliant presentation and for taking the time to give us all of this important information for those who are planning to study, to start a studies trip abroad. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have any last word or anything else you would like to say to the students.
Well, Karen, obviously, it's been a pleasure. And I want to thank all of you who've joined us today for having come and listened, because I know this is a long slog in a world where most of us are accustomed to a 1-minute video, a webinar that lasts this long. That's a real ask, but I appreciate it. And I really hope that you heard something of interest today. And I hope that we might hear from you in the future.
Thank you very much. I encourage everyone who was here in this webinar and who was watching us in this Facebook Live and webinar live to reach out to Christina anytime you want and start your application as soon as possible. So I hope to see you anytime soon, Christina, and good night to everyone.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.